Math 3. So in Math 1 we did fractions, decimal percentages. Math 2 we did metric conversion, English metric conversion. And now in Math 3 we're going to do order and supply, which is very similar to English metric conversions. We'll save weight dependent dosing for next time. All right, temperature scales. So just worry about Fahrenheit and Celsius. Don't worry about this scale. You're not going to use it in medicine. So freezing, 32, 0. Boiling, 212 and 100. So the metric system used just regular standards, 0 to 100, based on water. So our equation, there's multiple ones out there, and you can use any of those ones you want. Or this one. This is the one I like because you can use it from going to Celsius to Fahrenheit or from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So it's just one equation to remember instead of 2 or 3. All right, converting from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So the key thing is it's algebra. You're just going to plug and chug. So you're going to start with the equation, and anytime you see an F, you're going to replace it with the value. In this case, it is 100. So just rewrite the equation. This time, anytime you see an F, put 100 in its place. Right? So just insert the F value of 100. And now we can start simplifying. So we want to get the variable by itself. So we can do any computation that will simplify the equation. So we can simplify 5 times 100. So I rewrite everything. That way I don't miss anything and I just do one step at a time. Alright, next we can subtract 160 from 500. So that gives us 340. And to get the C by itself, we divide both sides by 9. That way the 9 cancels out. I'll write this in. So 340 divided by 9 is the value for C. So this is going from Fahrenheit to Celsius. You got to keep in mind where you're plugging in the numbers. So let's do one more example. Fahrenheit to Celsius. All right. So this time, anytime we see an F, we're going to plug in 70. So that is our first step. Plug it in the correct variable. If you plug 70 in here for C, it's going to be entirely wrong, entirely different. So let's plug in 70, and then we can just go ahead and simplify this multiplication. 5 times 70 gives us 350. And then we can just simplify. 350 minus 160 gives us 190, and then divide both sides by 9. So about 21 degrees. So room temperature, nice 21.1 degrees. So that's going from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Let's go the other way. This time we are going from Celsius to Fahrenheit. The good news is we're going to use the same equation, but this time, anytime you see a C, you're going to plug in the value for Celsius. So this is where, if you continue on plugging in for F, you'll go wrong. So you got to be mindful of what values are given. So now let's plug in the 50, and let's just go ahead and solve. 9 times 50. Yep, 450. So here our variable has a subtraction with it, but we want the variable by itself. So to get the minus 160 by itself, we're going to add 160 to both sides. So if I add 160 to that side, I have to add 160 also to this side. So this whole thing becomes 0. negative 160 plus 160, that becomes 0. And then on this side, I do 160 plus 450. So this whole thing goes away, becomes 0. And then all we did was we added together. So now to get f by itself, we just divide both sides by 5. 50 degrees Celsius, so if you're on an international weather channel and it says 50 C, you know that's going to be super, super hot. Don't even go there. Death Valley, hot, 122 Fahrenheit. So that was an example of going from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Let's do one more example of going from Celsius to Fahrenheit. All right, this time we got a negative number. So don't be scared. Just be careful of your negative values. So plugging in negative 10 anytime we see a C. So let's go ahead and simplify. 9 times negative 10. That's going to give us negative 90. But remember, we're going to add 160 to this side. We have to add 160 to this side. So 160 minus 90, well, this becomes a positive number. Yeah. So if you're going negative 10 Celsius, it's actually 14, which is freezing, right? So remember, positive 32 is freezing in Fahrenheit. So negative 10 Celsius is positive 14 Fahrenheit. So this is where we get that switch in the sign. So just be careful of your negative signs anytime you have negative temperatures. All right, order and supply. The doctor will write an order. Does he know what supply you have in the pharmacy? Most likely not. They don't even care. They just say, give this patient this much drug. You guys figure it out. Right? Fictitiously, I'm saying that. Of course, they kind of know what we have in the pharmacy, but they don't know exactly. So you have to figure out, based on what supply you have, to fill the order. So for example, 50 milligrams equals 1 tab. Guess what? That is an equality. We can use that as a factor of 1. All right, so if you guys remember converting, using our conversion factors as a factor of 1 here, we can use our supply as a factor of 1 to do conversion. Right? So the math is the exact same. Just follow the units. So for example, you got to convert this word into an equation. How many tablets of the supply is required per dose? Tabs per dose is what's asked, right? So what is the order? Milligrams per dose, 10 milligrams per dose. And what is the supply? 5 milligrams per tab. What units do we want at the bottom? What units do we have here?
Milligrams.
So what do we want at the bottom? Milligrams. So your supply is your conversion factor. Use it the exact same way. So milligrams cancel out. So do you multiply or divide? Divide. Very good. So 10 divided by 5 is 2 tabs. That's the long way. Let's do the shortcut. Order divided by supply. You can use this shortcut as long as your units cancel out. So here our order is 10 milligrams and our supply is 5 milligrams. So the answer is 2. Right? Same as we got here and here. Sometimes we'll have liquid medication, and in this case we get 125 milligrams of drug per teaspoon, aka 5 ml. So we need 375 milligrams per dose. What units do we want down here of our supply? Milligrams. So it's 5 mLs per 125 milligrams. So the milligrams cancel out, but don't forget, there's an extra number introduced here. So you're going to do 375 times 5 divided by 125. So here's the shortcut. Order over supply times the amount. Right? And the amount is how it comes right here. So normally we just use one tablet, one capsule, and we just ignore the 1. But now it's no longer a 1, so we have to take it into account. And all we do is multiply by it. So let's try it. What is our order?
375.
And again, you have to be in the same units for this to work. Our supply is 125 milligrams per 5 ml. So 375 divided by 125 times 5 will still give you the 15 ml. So that's the shortcut. Order over supply times the amount. A lot of times your order and supply will not be in the same units. So for example, the order's in milligrams, the supply is in grams. So it is going to be a lot easier to just convert it. So I like whole numbers. So if I change this to milligrams, it would be 1,000 milligrams, right? So now we can use our shortcut. What's our order? What's our supply?
Order is 500 milligrams.
What's the supply?
1,000.
1,000, right? So as long as the units are the same, they cancel out, and our answer is going to be half, right? So our order is 500 per dose. So here is a conversion to get rid of the milligrams, and then you get 1 gram per tab. Right? So yeah, half a tablet per dose. So use the shortcut as long as you put everything in the same units. In this case, milligrams cancel out milligrams. All right, let's do the same here. So instead of half a gram, let's change this guy to 500 milligrams, right? All right, what's our order?
500 milligrams.
What's our supply?
100.
And the amount is 5 ml. There you go. 500 divided by 100 times 5. Yep, 25 ml. So if you're not sure, do the long way. Take a look at the units.
Yes.
If not, just use the shortcut and make sure you're in the same units. Milligrams, milligrams. All right, let's do these guys real quick. So now you know what to look for. Guess what? These guys are not the same. So let's change this to 10,000 milligrams. So my order is 50. My supply is 10,000 per 100 ml, and I'm done. Milligrams cancel out. 50 divided by 10,000 times 100, you should come up with half an ml.
0.5.
Yep, 0.5. Same with the next example. Let's change this guy to a whole number. So the order is 100, and the supply is 25. Your answer is going to be 4, right? So it looks scary. It looks totally out of this world, but as long as you go back to what you learned week 1, 2, and 3, just build upon it. All right, one last one. Well, sometimes the doctor's lazy. We did SIG codes 3. A lot of times the doctor says, hey, give him 30. Hey, give him 60. But sometimes the doctor will just say, you know what, pharmacy, you figure it out. So here's an example, 10-day supply. How many tablets of our supply would they need for 10 days? Okay. So I need 100 milligrams. How many tablets is that? What's my order? What's my supply? Well, my order is 100 milligrams. My supply comes 50, so I need 2 tablets per dose. So that's 2 tabs here. QID is how many times a day?
Every day.
QID?
Oh wait, 4 times.
For how many days? 10. That's it.
10 days.
So their first step is order and supply. So you figured out it was 2 tablets. 4 times a day for 10 days. 2 times 4 times 10 equals 80. Yep. There you go. 80 tablets. So we skipped through all of the calculation. All right, so just use the shortcut. It makes it easier. 2 tabs of my supply, 4 times a day for 10 days. Now that you understand what all this means, it makes it a lot easier. Right? So just 80 tablets. All right, let's see. How many mLs per dose? Orders 100. Supply comes 200 per 15. So you need 7.5 mLs. Q8H, how many times a day?
Every 8 hours.
3 times a day. And you're going to do it for 14 days. So your first step is always order and supply. Second step, frequency per day, and then how many days. 7.5 times 3 times 14. Times 3. 7.5 times 3 times 14. 3 times a day. Should come up with 315. So we'll work more on this in the hybrid B. All right, let's give this first one a try, and then we'll go on to the hybrid. So this one, let's see, milligrams. Let's go ahead and change this guy to, or grams. Let's change this guy to milligrams, right? So order is 100. Supply is 10,000 per 100 mLs, right? How many times a day?
It's for 30 days.
No, how many times a day? Every 12 hours. How many times a day?
Twice.
Now for 30 days. And you're done. You can just do this all in one computation. So do 100 divided by 10,000 times 100 times 2 times 30. How many tablets do they need? Or how many mLs do they need? Well, they need 2 mLs a day. So it's going to be a total of 60 mLs. Right. So here the doctor's like, you know what? Forget it. You figure it out, pharmacy. I'm too lazy. So for this one, you just have to figure out how many tablets here and then add it to how many tablets here. So anytime you see "and," right, that means to add. So you're going to have to add. So here it's going to be 2 tablets, right? 3 times a day. And so you got to add 4 tablets at night. So that's how many in a day? That's going to be 2, 6 plus 4 more in a day. So that's 10 a day for 14 days, which is a total of 140. So anytime you see "and," just remember you got to add.